The Lake Michigan coastline is a popular summer vacation spot. Beaches, lakeside towns, a perfect place to have a quiet afternoon. But in South Haven, just a few miles inland, there's a vacation spot that sparks to life with rumbles and roars. It's no sandy beach. It certainly isn't quiet, but there's thousands of people here to watch the greatest spectacle in grassroots racing. The field is the size of Le Mans, stacked with winners and champions from nearly every road racing organization in North America. For those searching for the most intense competition, for those looking for the best sprint racing and grassroots competition, look no farther than GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Spring Kickoff Race 1. 54 cars line up for a 15-minute race, and it all begins now. Welcome to GRIDLIFE Live. My name's Kyle Heyer, joining you on a beautiful sunny summer afternoon here at South Haven, Michigan's Gingerman Raceway, and we're here in the FCP or Race HQ getting ready to kick off what is going to be a fantastic afternoon of racing. 2 races here on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, a 54-car grid, the largest that GRIDLIFE has ever seen for GLTC, and this is also the most competitive grid that we've ever had. We had about 40 cars within 5 seconds in qualifying, which is about as close as we've ever seen the entire field. We've got the field lined up on the grid right now. We had an awesome fan walk a little bit earlier in the day. But the previous session to this was actually a drift session, so the track is going to be a little bit dirty. It's going to have some rubber all over the place, so it's going to be a little bit interesting on those first couple laps to see what the grip level is like for these 54 drivers and teams. Some new rookies here this weekend. I know one of them isn't going to make it to the grid here with some car trouble. We have a handful of new drivers. Robert Vierhau in the Nissan 350Z, Benjamin Morawski in a Mini Cooper S for FCP Euro, Gary Wimble in a Duratec-swapped Mazda Miata, David Rudzinski in an Acura Integra, Andrew Gartsky in an Acura Integra, and Derek King in a 350Z. All new drivers competing here this weekend. A few others have had some experience just a couple weeks ago at Blackhawk Farms Raceway for our track day picnic event. Taylor Gazewski in a spec Miata. She'll be starting in the red and black Ultima Raceworks car. This will only be her second event ever, as well as Matan Rosenberg. This is only his second event ever. He will start in 28th. So a lot of new, fresh faces on the grid and a whole lot of familiar faces on the grid as well. Our pole sitter for this event is actually going to be Jeremy Swenson, who was a recent winner from NCM Motorsports Park and Grand Circuit about a month and a half ago. Emil Tab will roll off alongside him. Brian Heidkotter makes his return in the Chris Forsberg Racing Nissan 370Z Nismo, and Tom O'Gorman will share that second row. O'Gorman is our most recent race winner from Grand Circuit back in April. Aaron Lichty, runner-up in last year's championship, will roll off in 5th. Ryan Upham in 6th. Andy Smedgard won Grand Circuit, won 2 of the 4 races there in Kentucky last month. He will start 7th alongside Luke McGrew, our current points leader. Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea of where the points are coming into this weekend. Again, we do track season-long points, and so far, it's Luke McGrew at the top of the standings with 60 points at NOLA, 57 at COTA, 59 at NCM, and he leads with 176 points, a 19-point lead over Aaron Lichty, who missed the round at NOLA last November, which was our first 2021 season round, but he has won 3 races so far this season, the most of any driver on the grid. Last year's champion, Eric Cathill, is 3rd in the standings, and he had some troubles back at NOLA and also some issues at COTA, but at NCM he found his way back towards the top of the board and had 62 points there, so he sits 3rd in the standings, 36 back from McGrew and a handful back from Aaron Lichty. Todd Cayley in the number 161. He's 5th in the standings. He told me that if he ran well at NCM, he would come to Spring Kickoff, and indeed he has. He's in the middle of K-swapping his normal number 161 Honda S2000, but he borrowed one from a friend, and he is here to compete this weekend. Unfortunately, in qualifying, he discovered that there had been an issue with the restrictor of a car that he was borrowing from his friend, and he ended up being overpowered and underweight. So he self-reported that, and with the integrity that Todd Cayley has, he'll be starting from the tail, and it'll be real fun to watch him drive through this 54-car grid. So Todd Cayley, great guy, and the car is going to be easy to spot. It's bright yellow. It's got that highlighter yellow coloring on it. Real easy to see from a distance, so he'll start all the way towards the tail of the field. For those that are unfamiliar with GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, again, this is a wheel-to-wheel, single-class racing format. Sprint racing, 4 rounds over the course of the weekend, 15-minute races. Everyone races together, and the goal here is to have fun and not run into your buddies, and we've done an amazing job of that. So this is, again, the largest grid that we've seen here in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. And again, I mentioned we're at Gingerman Raceway. Let's have a look at our track map here for today. 2.21 miles here at Gingerman Raceway, built in 1995, open in 1996. 11 corners. It all starts with a run down towards turn 1. A little bit of a hump over the front straightaway where that start-finish line is. Just slightly downhill into turn 1. This track is fairly flat. Down to about 3rd gear for turn 1, then maybe to 2nd in some of the taller geared cars for turn 2. A short sprint up to turn 3. Sharp right-hander there. Then a kink through turn 4 into the double apex 5 and 6. This is one of the trickier sections to get downshifted properly. Then a sprint uphill slightly to turn number 7. Carry that speed all the way through 7, 8, and 9. And then slam on the binders down into turn 10B, the newer addition to this racetrack, added only a handful of years ago. Then the 1,700-foot long back straightaway section here, climbing the hill. It's a blind crest up over that kink right at the exit of 10, all the way down to perhaps your best passing opportunity at turn number 11, and that will take you back to the front straightaway here at Gingerman Raceway. A lot of drivers look at this place as a track that's fairly inconsequential. There's not a lot of things to hit here, which is a pleasant reason to kind of go for gold here this weekend. If you step out of the bounds, you're not going to hit anything. You're not going to get off into some paved runoff. A lot of grass here, a lot of room for error, and you can see there running the full course configuration, 2.21 miles, that longest straight, 1,700 feet. Here's a look at the weather. 85 degrees Fahrenheit in the air. It is a very pleasant day, but on the racetrack, 103 degrees Fahrenheit, and of course that's a sampled area. It could be hotter or cooler in certain areas of the racetrack depending on how much rubber is laid down, and considering that we're following a drift session, there might be a lot of rubber down on the racetrack. So that's a little bit of our pre-race. We're going to have the field rolling off here in just a moment's time. We're going to start rolling through the starting lineup now, and there are 27 rows of cars, and I'd like to get through all of them. So I'm going to begin with that right now. On row number 1 for Spring Kickoff here for race number 1, it's going to be Jeremy Swenson in the number 30. That's a bright purple C5 Corvette. He'll start right alongside the number 14 of Emil Tab in a winning Formula Mazda Miata. Brian Heitkotter in the Chris Forsberg Racing, number 005, starts in row number 2, alongside our most recent winner and past IMSA race winner, Tom O'Gorman. Row 3, Aaron Lichty in another winning Formula K-swapped Miata. Ryan Upham makes his return to GLTC action in the number 13 in 6th. Andy Smedgard for ASM starts in 7th in the number 212, and Luke McGrew lines up alongside him as the points leader in 8th. Joel Morrison, great qualifying effort for him. He starts 9th alongside Jeremy Boysen in the number 99 Acura RSX in 10th. Jake Price in the number 202 Mazda Miata, and Justin Lee in the Miata Hubs number 33 Mazda Miata. He will start in 12th. Eric Cathill, last year's season champion, rolls off alongside his friend and buddy, DJ Alessandrini, making his first start of the season. His last time out at Road America, he ended up breaking a transmission, so this is his first time back on the racetrack since October. DJ has 1 race win under his belt back at Mid-Ohio from last year, and DJ is also on a new tire this weekend. Most of the field is on either the Falcon RT660, the Yokohama street tire, that's what I believe Jeremy Swenson is on, or they are on the Hoosier Racing Slick. But DJ Alessandrini is trying the brand new Goodyear Racing Slick, so we'll see how he does in that number 61 Honda Civic. Behind him, in row number 8, Jake Jorenstad in the number 23 Myriad Motorsports car. Louis Chatroop starts in 16th in the number 26. Eric Jensen in the number 184. That is a V8 LS-powered Scion FRS. He starts in 17th alongside Kerry James in the 44, whose car suffered some damage back at Track Day Picnic a few weeks ago. That car has been repaired. Scott Bowling in the number 722. He is back after some contact at NCM. Broke the transmission in that Porsche Cayman, so he's ready to rip again alongside Eric Meadows in the number 3. Zachary Lovoy in the number 42 starts 21st. Ron Solomon for ASM starts 22nd in the 777. Felipe Gonzalez in the number 12 for Myriad Motorsports starts 23rd. Patrick Reyes in the number 168 starts 24th. Wes Penn in the number 113 starts 25th. Matan Rosenberg, the 17-year-old. This is only his second event. He'll roll off in 26th. Ben Dozman was looking for an ECU, so I hope he made it out to the racetrack. Otherwise, he will not be starting this race. He was going to start 27th. Ben Harisco for Ultimate Raceworks starts in 28th. Scott Robertson in 29th. Derek King 30th. Then Tiffany Kelly in the number 68. That is a J-powered V6 Honda S2000. That's a new build for this weekend. John Yu in the number 32, in the 32nd spot in the number 200. Matt Koval, Stephen Cox, Colton Wade, Brad Kosaiba, Ben Morowski for FCP Euro starts in 37th. Gary Wimble, Tom Lamb, Robert Virhu, Andrew Wirt, Chris Murray, Juan Marchand are all the way through 43rd. We've still got 10 more cars to get through. How about that? Clayton Fitzpatrick starts 44th. David Rudzinski, Seth Gale, Andrew Gartsky, Max Lupfer, Jeremy Myers, Will Leahy, Dusty Michael, Michael Kritikos, Max Toyer, Taylor Gajewski, and Todd Cayley wrap up the 55 cars that we've got on the grid for today. We've got one more pace lap to do before we turn them loose for just about 15 minutes here for GridLife Touring Cup. And again, if you want to learn more about this series, you can go to grid.life/GLTC to learn about the points and how you can join. The rule set here, again, is essentially a time attack styled rule set. We've seen a lot of drivers really tune into the building portion of this series. Again, as a multi-make series, you can essentially run what you brung. Power to weight class, 12.5 pounds per horsepower is essentially what everyone's shooting for, and modifiers for aero and things of the sort. So you end up getting a really diverse field. We've seen minivans race here. We've seen Miatas and V6 powered S2000s. And how about our pace car, the Ultimaniac for the Valvoline boys and Chris Forsberg Racing, bringing that car out here. That is a 1,400 horsepower car. Now, given the class that we've got here in GLTC, that I got to do some quick math here. But the average GLTC car makes just about 200 horsepower. So the Ultimaniac on its own is essentially 7 GLTC cars worth of power as the pace car. So this is one of those moments where the pace car could probably actually win this race, but it's going to have to peel off and turn them all loose for 15 minutes. So Jeremy Swenson, the story for the number 30 car out front in the C5 Corvette. That car tends to fire off very, very quickly and then burn up those rear tires and fall back into the clutches of the drivers who are on the slick racing tires a little bit later in the race. So Swenson might fire out real fast in that Corvette, but it doesn't mean that he's going to stay there. So his best the best thing he can do is try to establish as big of a lead as possible so that he will get run down less quickly. But it is inevitable that he will fall back into the clutches of somebody before the race is over. Emil Tab in the number 14, again a winning formula car. That is an NA K-swapped Miata, and it is not a slouch in a straight line by any stretch. So he should be able to keep up with Swenson pretty well regardless. Brian Heitkotter again in the Chris Forsberg Racing Nissan 370Z. This car is run back at Circuit of the Americas a couple months ago in February. That was our second round for the 2021 season. And he will start in third. And then Tom O'Gorman again, what a story that was back at NCM a couple months ago to win his first ever GLTC race. All the trials and tribulations that Tom has had. Tom began his racing career crowdfunding Pirelli World Challenge TCA and TCB effort. He ended up then winning 2 championships in Pirelli World Challenge, moving on to IMSA, where he won 4 races, one at Daytona, one at Road Atlanta, one at Sebring, and one at VIR. And of course, just like the story of so many professional drivers, that story ended not due to talent, but due to funding issues. And Tom is now building his own race car with the help of Andy Smedgard Motorsports, as well as Heel Toe. And they have got this car prepped and ready to rip. It's on Hoosier Racing Slicks, and we're ready to go racing here for GridLife Touring Cup. The largest field we have ever seen, 55 cars, 28 rows deep. Swenson in a Corvette, Emil Tab in a Mazda Miata. Green flag flies, the front straightaway full of race cars, and we're racing at GridLife Spring Kickoff. 3 wide down the inside is Andy Smedgard towards the first corner. Brian Heitkotter up to second. Emil Tab, he got off at the exit of turn 1, kicked some dust clouds up. O'Gorman to the inside of Heitkotter. That's for second place as they come up out of turn 2. Now it's a drag race, 370Z versus S2000. Heitkotter's going to win that drag race for now. O'Gorman closes in the braking zone. Right behind is Ryan Upham in the number 13. That car's mighty quick as well. There's the winning formula teammates, but Andy Smedgard in the ASM car, he drops a tire off at the exit of turn 3. Now runs down to turn 4. That's the kink there. But Heitkotter holds second. Look at this mess behind. There's 2 wide, about 8 rows deep, and we're 3 corners into the race already. There's Stephen Cox in the number 117. That's also a C5 Corvette. That's run with us before a handful of times, including last year at Midwest last fall. There's DJ Alessandrini, the big white car in the center of your screen. That's a 2006 Civic Si. Again, on those experimental Goodyear racing slicks. A lot to learn for DJ and the field to see if those are a tire that will be competitive in this series. But so far, so good. Right behind Jake Price and Joel Morrison as we sweep through turn number 9. Late apex here, but out front, Jeremy Swenson has set sail. This is the story we've seen with Swenson's car as it lights off and drives away, but he will fall back into the clutches of drivers later in this race. When those street tires begin to overheat with that 3,200-pound car. There's Ryan Upham and Emil Tabb, who dropped out of the front row immediately in turn 1, overcooked it. Emil Tabb put ABS in this car for COTA a couple months ago. Might still be learning the limits of that ABS. Certainly quick, but maybe prone to mistakes at this point. Across the line for lap 1, Swenson, a 1:43.27. That's an incredible lap time considering the slow rolling start. And for second place, it's still Heitkotter and O'Gorman battling for that spot. Upham, Tabb, Lichty, and that is Andy Smedgaard behind, who won 2 races back at NCM Motorsports Park back in April. Through turn 3 now again, and there's Ryan Upham again, so close to victory at Road America last year. Lost a drag race going up the hill in turn 14 to Aaron Lichty, I believe, or it might have actually been Emil Tabb that won that race, but it was awful close. And Upham still, I believe, ooh, see a bit of a bobble there. He's real slow. Emil Tabb crosses over, goes down the inside, and that was a mistake that's going to cost Upham a spot. And we look a little bit deeper in the field here. Here's Jake Price and DJ Alessandrini right behind in tow. But there is a big blockage behind. I believe that is Jeremy Boysen in the 99 RSX. There's a bit of a stack up back there. There's Eric Cathill in the hybrid racing, EG. They've been helping him out a lot. A brand new livery for Eric Cathill this weekend. It is a sharp-looking race car, but still has some work to do to get the reliability in that car that he needs to be ultra competitive. Still working his way up into the top 10 here in the early stages of this race. There's Tabb. I thought, so Tabb got back by Upham, and now they're falling into the clutches of Andy Smedgaard. Also Aaron Lichty back there a little bit. And we have not seen the pace out of Lichty that we might have expected to see, given Lichty's runner-up in the championship last year. He is still the winningest driver in GLTC. But and he has outscored everybody every round that he's been in this year. But he's been doing it a lot more subtly this year. He has not been out winning races left and right. He has won 3 races, which is a quarter of the races that we've run so far. But that's still less than we would expect for Lichty at this point in the season. The competition level has just come up so high. And see Upham going a little bit defensive there on Andy Smedgaard towards turn number 3. So also keep in mind that the way we grid race number 2 is set by your best lap time from race number 1. So if you can find some clear racetrack, I would just run a fast lap and get yourself gridded up better for race number 2, especially if you're buried in the pack and you don't have any way to advance up towards the top 10 or even into a points-paying position. This is a great opportunity to get some clear racetrack, run the quickest lap you can, and grid yourself well for race 2 and set yourself up. Already noticing that Swenson seems to look like he's coming back into the clutches just a little bit of Heitkotter and O'Gorman. So we're going to keep an eye on that purple number 30. Again, drove away in the first lap or 2. But with the hot temperatures today and big street tires in the back, they will likely overheat within a couple of laps. Look at this. There's Louis Chatroop and DJ Alessandrini, who got by, I believe, or Jake Price has actually driven away from Alessandrini. But down the inside through turn number 10B. And climbing up out of the hole towards turn number 11. Battle up the road. You see on the bottom right of your screen, that's Jeremy Boysen and the S2000 of Joel Morrison for 9 Lives Racing. And there, it's Kerry James in the number 44 that had gotten by Alessandrini in 10B. So Alessandrini on those Goodyear tires, we've seen DJ win races before back at Mid-Ohio. He was on Hoosiers then. And again, trying this Goodyear tire to see if it's viable. I have not seen anything this weekend that would tell me that that tire is any better or worse than any other tire in the field. So I think this is an experiment that a lot of drivers are looking at to see if there's something to learn here. And I think for DJ, you see a little bit of a rear slide there through turn number 2. I would be interested to see if he jumps onto Hoosiers later in the weekend just to see if that makes any difference on where he runs. But so far, just outside of the top 10 for Alessandrini. Right behind him is Eric Jensen. That's that black and red FRS that has an LS in it. It's a big V8 powered FRS. Again, no torque dip in that like there is in the stock motors, that's for sure. There's Tiffany Kelly in the J-swapped S2000, a V6 powered car now. And what I've seen is this field is actually strung out pretty effectively. We're not seeing the multiple side-by-side battles that I think we would have expected with the field this big. But again, as we get throughout the weekend, I think we're going to see more and more of that as the comfort level rises. But again, how amazing is it that we have 55 cars on this racetrack, and the closest thing we've had to an incident is one driver going off track and kicking up a dust cloud. That's pretty phenomenal. Have a look at the left side of your screen. You see those times. Swenson's last lap, a 1:39.040. Heitkotter, a 1:38.967, and a 1:39.023 for O'Gorman. So both second and third were faster than the race leader last time by. There's Andy Smedgard closing in on Ryan Upham. That would be for fifth spot. And he's building a run here up on the front straight, staying tucked in line for the slipstream. Popping out for turn number one, but thinks better of it, now back in line. Down the inside for turn number two, Smedgard gets some overlap there. Upham leaves him some space. But again, that M3 is so good in a straight line. I've also heard that these BMWs are really good on the brakes as well, but Smedgard closes in and continues to hound the back of that red BMW M3 for that fifth spot. Up front, you see, look at this. Battle for the lead is heating up, but Swenson is coming back towards Brian Heitkotter in the Chris Forsberg Racing number 5. That 370Z is moving forward, and it's also interesting to see the larger displacement cars. There was, for a while, it looked like GLTC was sort of set up so that the four-cylinder cars would really have the advantage because of their lightness, but we've seen with some minor rule adjustments that the larger displacement cars are really finding and falling into their own. With Swenson in a V8, Heitkotter in a V6, O'Gorman is the highest represented four-cylinder. That car newly K-swapped at the Andy Smedgard Motorsports shop in Wisconsin, and he again has found a lot of success with that car in that format already with only a couple races under its belt. Look at this stack up here. There's Ben Maruski in the, I believe that is the Mini Cooper S that is trying to sneak down the inside of turn number 4, but no dice, couldn't get the job done there. About halfway through this race, and Smedgard again closing in the brakes, but nowhere to go, can't get the overlap. He's better on the brakes, better through the corners, but not better on the straights, and that's where that M3 is really advantageous. And again, looking at the lap times, a half a second quicker for Heitkotter than Swenson. So that lead battle is going to get real hot, real fast. And I just don't think Swenson can hang on unless he gets incredibly defensive. It's hard to make passes here. We're seeing that right now with these two, but those two being the 13 of Upham and the 212 of Smedgard. But even with the difficulty of passing, Swenson's falling off a lot quicker than I thought he would. But that goes back to that track temperature being over 100 degrees. Look at Smedgard using every inch of racetrack up onto the rumbles at the exit of turn 3 now as we go back to the front. Those top 3 drivers all within about 10 car lengths of each other. Tricky turn 5 and 6. This is really challenging, especially for those whose gears sort of fall between. S2000s specifically have a kind of a weird in-between gear between 5th and 4th. Or maybe it's 4th and 3rd up there, but it's challenging for sure. There's Taylor Gazewski going a lap down in a Spec Miata. That car has about 89 horsepower. She's doing a great job. This is only her second weekend in GLTC. Stays online, lets the others go around her. But again, the front 3 have broken away. Swenson, Heitkotter, and O'Gorman now out front. And as the weekend goes on, our last race of the weekend on Sunday will feature a random invert. With a field this size, it could be up to 15 to 20 cars that will be inverted. So Swenson will not get to ride out the entire weekend up front. Even if he wins the first 3 races, he is not going to be in the front for all 4 races, at least to start. Will Leahy getting the blue flag with the leaders approaching. Lap traffic we knew was going to be a factor. And as Swenson goes by down the inside, it looks like it's going to be relatively light lap traffic for now. But if they catch a big pack, that could also throw a wrench into things. As Heitkotter slows up just a little bit, the fastest car of the front 3 last time by, the fastest car on the racetrack was O'Gorman in 3rd. So that yellow S2000 with the heel toe stickers on the side, that car coming forward as well. Off into turns 5 and 6 again. And I think what O'Gorman might be waiting for is Highcutter to catch Swenson. If those two begin to battle, that will be very easy for O'Gorman to finish off catching Highcutter and Swenson. Once they start running side by side, you will absolutely lose seconds a lap running door to door here. And we're about to see that, I think, with Highcutter closing in. You can smell the blood in the water now through 7, 8, and 9, carrying all that speed through the left-hander. And on the run down to turn 10. Now, again, the V8 power that Swenson has, that flat torque curve, as I just see Ben Morowski pulling back into the garage area, the paddock with some smoke out the tailpipes. That's not a good sign for the FCP Euro team. Meanwhile, in the background, there is a whole bunch of cars fighting behind DJ Alessandrini. I think, is that Luke McGrew? No, that's Eric Jensen right behind. And then it's Jake Price, and I believe that is Jake Jorenstad, as well as Justin Lee having a bit of a scrap back here. That is for about 15th or 16th spot here off into turn 10B. Jorenstad, again, part of the Myriad Motorsports camp, and they have got some really beautiful liveries on those cars. That sort of turquoise, that kind of seafoam metallic green color is really, really good looking. But Jake Price dropping into the clutches of Justin Lee with Miata hubs. And for those that track Miatas, if you know, got to make sure that your hubs are sufficient for the task at hand. And Justin Lee owns and operates Miata hubs with a couple business partners, and they sell those parts, and that's what they run on these race cars. So right now, Justin Lee a little bit ahead of one of his teammates, Eric Meadows, who's a little bit back and behind. There's Jorenstad again, working through turn number 2. And again, waiting for that front battle to heat up even further, because Highcutter at a 1:38.899, we're basically qualifying pace is what we're doing. But again, O'Gorman's still quicker. So the slowest of the front 3 is our leader. The fastest of the front 3 is the driver in third. And you see how spread out the field is now. The lap traffic is going to continue to flow and continue to make this field tighter and tighter. We could expect a white flag at any moment now, 13 minutes into this race. So for those up front, the time to make your move is now. You don't have any time to wait. No time to plan your move. Here we go, and as we expected, Jeremy Swenson running defensive to keep Highcutter behind him on the back straightaway. This is heading towards turn number 11. Brian Highcutter looks a lot better now. They were struggling with ABS on this car for the first couple test sessions of the weekend. There's O'Gorman a little bit behind. He's dropped off the pace just a little bit this lap, but across the line now, I don't see a white flag in the air, so we'll get at least 2 more laps, but Highcutter is closing in. White flag is actually out for this. So this will be our final lap here, and Highcutter goes a little wide on the entrance to turn number 2. Now comes back across the racetrack to kind of over-under at the exit. Now a sprint race down to turn number 3. Highcutter closing in. He has never won a race in GLTC. Swenson is a recent race winner back at NCM. He runs wide in turn 3. Big slide for Swenson at the exit of turn 3. Now side by side for the race lead here at Gingerman Raceway. Door to door, just a little bit of overlap here, just a fender for Highcutter. Can he stay alongside through both left-handers in 5 and 6? That's a tall ask, but Swenson offline and out of control, struggling to keep the heat out of those tires, but he hangs on for now. Now it's the run up to turn number 7, where they're going to disappear just under the grass. Now back on the drone shot here. Highcutter all over the back of Swenson for the top spot here, carrying the speed through turn number 7. There's lap traffic ahead. We'll see if it's going to be a factor, but there's 2 really good passing zones left into turn 10B and into turn 11, and Highcutter knows that he is running out of time. Does he have overlap? Swenson defensive again. Highcutter lunges onto the brakes around the outside through turn 10B. Can he get the drag race here? Get back on the power. The V6 versus the V8. Nissan versus Chevrolet Corvette. Up the back straightaway again. Highcutter is close, but not close enough. One long run down towards turn number 11 again, and you see the V8 again pulling on Highcutter deep on the brakes into turn number 11. Final corner, coming back to what I assume is going to be the checkered flag this time through. Back to the checkers, and it's going to be Jeremy Swenson that comes across the line ahead of Brian Highcutter. What a battle between those two. Swenson, Highcutter, and Tom O'Gorman, your podium for race number 1. That is phenomenal. Emil Tab 4th, Andy Smedgart in 5th. But up front, Highcutter got to Swenson, but couldn't get past him. Swenson driving a defensive line, as he should. but that left Highcotter no real opportunities to get around. But winning margin only a couple tenths of a second. O'Gorman back in third. He'll be happy with that. A podium, not a bad result. Rest of the field coming across the line now. Upham again, I mentioned, in sixth. And Lichty, Morrison, Cathill, McGrew, Chatroop, Kerry James, Alessandrini, Jensen, Jornstad, Lee, and Meadows and Price. The rest of your top 20. Race 1 complete here for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup at Gingerman Raceway, and some surprises and some not surprises. Eric Cathill in the 82 car with that hybrid racing EG. Again, still working out some gremlins in that car. I see one car off in the gravel trap. Was that Jake Jornstad that might have gone off? One of the myriad cars could have been Jornstad or that of trying to remember the name of the other driver. I'm blanking on it right at this moment. But Swenson again holding on for victory, and this is similar to what we saw at NCM. We'll see if he can repeat that same magic as some of the rest of the field comes across the line. Now still a handful of drivers remaining. But Highcotter and O'Gorman second and third, Tab, Smedgard. So no real surprises other than Cathill and Lichty both outside of the top 5, really not showing the pace that we would have expected. And again, this is just goes to show how strong the field is in comparison to where it was a year ago, where it seemed like Lichty and Cathill would just trade wins back and forth all day long. No longer. It's a real challenge to win in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. The competition level is so high, and it's about as equal as it's going to get in grassroots racing. Pretty phenomenal racing, but that's going to do it for the first race here of the weekend. Our second race will be a little bit later today.